If you're spending $25, $50 or more on design or app building tools online, you're going to want to see this. Google recently released a few new features and tools that might change the way you build prototypes and validate business ideas forever. And it's all built on Google AI Studio's new vibe coding feature. And paired with Google Stitch, it essentially combines the roles of a designer and a programmer in one single place. So you can visually design, edit, and test your app's UI, all without ever touching the code and breaking the logic behind it. And this is something very valuable for non-technical people because see, tools out there such as Lovable or Bolt have you build an app with both the front end and back end mixed in one single place. But Google's approach aims to isolate this design layer so you can freely iterate on your UI and components so that process actually becomes far cleaner and far less error prone. And in this video, I'll take you through the process of having a UI to a fully workable prototype by building an AI avatar app, which is a continuation to an AI avatar system that I've built in the previous video, and also give you my comments on this whole process and Google's AI tools. Let's dive right in. If you're curious about the AI avatar system that I'm talking about, well, this is the system. I built this using an A10 and Airtable, and this is for a client. We are building an AI news channel for him. So if you're curious about this, make sure to check the previous video. I'll leave it on a link in the description. But yeah, and this is the approach that I usually recommend when thinking about building an app or building a prototype. It's to first use a no-code tool, especially if you're a non-technical person. So you see here that I'm using Airtable for the front end, and if you saw the last video, N8N for the back end. Essentially, this allows you to understand the step-by-step process on how you call APIs, how the data is manipulated, and you're doing that manually with N8N. And sure, this can take some time, but I wouldn't say it requires extreme technical knowledge, such as going ahead and start coding, right? But the important thing is that you understand the step-by-step process so that then you have enough detail to give that to a coding agent. Okay, so if you're interested in seeing the system, I'll leave a link in the description to the previous video where I'm walking you through this. But yeah, we're essentially reviewing two tools from the Google's AI ecosystem. So the first one is Stitch, which actually was released in May 20th. Okay, so I wouldn't say it's a new tool, but it's been evolving. Since it's currently in beta, I guess they're still collecting training information. That's one of the reasons why Google leaves these AI tools for free, right? Because they value much more the data that you're giving them than the actual costs that they're going through. So yeah, this is essentially an evolution to Figma, if you may. And I'll show you, well, I'm going to show you in a second, but now we're going to go through the second tool over here, which is, well, this is the newest version of their vibe coding tool in Google AI Studio. So this would be more similar to Lovable or Bolt, right? Where you can just code something in this kind of search tab. And yeah, I'll go through it in a bit. But the concepts are the same. So if you see here, well, you're going from an AI prompt to an AI powered app. Well, we'll see if that's the case. And you can also find inspiration similar to VO. And yeah, you can make changes in your app, right? This is similar to Lovable's latest release. And yeah, a couple other things. But the really cool thing with this is you can supercharge your apps with tools that are available already in Google's ecosystem, right? So if you have tested already Google's API ecosystem, you know that you can connect to Google Maps, you can analyze images with their models, right? So essentially this allows you to kind of do a plug and play in terms of capability. So if you're building an app here, for example, you can just say, okay, I want to make sure I'm able to create conversational voice apps. I want to add Gemini, I want to add Google Maps data, right? So it's collecting, it's kind of adding connections to those APIs from the ecosystem that Google has. So you could think about it as you're building your app around what they already have. So it's really, really powerful. And it's pretty smart actually as well if you think about it, because this might be free, but the APIs that you're connecting your apps to actually cost money. Okay, so that's the free thing. So yeah, but as you understand from what I've been mentioning in the previous videos, the best way to start is by designing what you're actually building, okay? So that's why I want to take you to Stitch first of all. What I've done here is, well, I went through ChatGPT. Okay, so here I am in ChatGPT, and this is what you should do when you're building any sort of app or any sort of system, okay? No matter if it's in code or no code or whatever you're doing. You want to understand what you're building first of all. You need to do some research in order to understand, well, what APIs are you calling, what general logic should follow, stuff like that. Since we're building an app from an existing system, which obviously I recommend, what I'm doing is that I'm pulling out screenshots of the Airtable base, right? just to let ChatGPT know, okay, well, this is the process that I'm following right now to generate all these avatars from news channels on Instagram, right? This is how I'm scraping them. This is the metrics that I'm pulling out. And here I'm going to drop you the workflow. Okay. So I'm just going to give it extra context so that it's able to understand, okay, well, based on this and how you're currently working, this is how the layout of the app is going to look like. Okay. So we go through a couple of conversations just to make sure that I like what I'm seeing. And yeah, so you can go ahead and do this. And actually what I'm going to do now is take you through this. I'm going to do another one because I don't really like this one. And what I realized with this process, right, where I'm just asking it to generate all of the screens is that, well, LLMs are very probabilistic, okay, which means that, you know, if you give it all the pages, it's not going to hold the context properly across all of them. And there's, you know, higher chance that it makes little subtle errors on all the different pages. Okay, so far so good. I like the way this is going, but a better approach would be to prompt Google Stitch so that it creates each page at a time. Okay, so that's what we're going to try now. So let's come over here, go to all designs, and let's start a new design. What we're going to do first is add kind of the first, you could call it the app shell, the global layout, okay? But let's refine this a bit further because Google gives us, okay, it equips us with prompting guide. If you open this, well, someone working at Google left this really nice guide on how to, you know, effectively prompt in Google Stitch. So we're just gonna go ahead, copy all that, and let's just say refine the prompting for our avatar app for Google Stitch by using the guidelines created by Google. Okay, and let's call it the prompting guidelines. Right, so this is just going to allow us to just create high quality prompts, right, based on what Google Stitch actually wants, right? Since these people created this tool, it might be worth listening to them. So here we have it. The version will help you generate clean and consistent professional multi-screen app. Let's go ahead and copy that, see how it does. So let's go back onto Stitch. Let's paste that over here. And you can see on top over here that you can start either a web app or a phone app. And you can either create the design in experimental mode or standard mode. So with experimental mode, you can create really high quality designs because it uses Gemini 2.5 Pro. And if you go on the three dots over here, you can see some other stuff, including the prompting guide, okay? So this is what I actually showed you a few seconds ago. And one more thing is that you can actually add a sketch or mockup or some visual inspiration. Maybe you have a screenshot of some app that you like. So we could just actually look for one. So call me crazy, but I like the design of the Supabase app. I also made sure I switched to web over here. But yeah, if we go over here, for example, I like the, you know, the style of these boxes over here. I think there's a name for this, but I'm just gonna screenshot that, paste it over here in Stitch. Let's go ahead and grab another screenshot. So if you actually go inside the dashboard, yeah, I like the style of these. So let's go ahead and grab this. Take a screenshot and then paste it over here. So now I am just gonna press enter. I'm just gonna say, use the screenshots I attached for further design inspiration for the components. Okay, something like that. And then we're gonna press enter. Okay, it added the screenshots that we gave it as a reference. And then it's gonna go ahead and just discuss, okay, before, you know, generating anything, this is what we want to do. And instead of saying yes, create all of them, we're actually going to follow Google's guidelines. So Google's guidelines state that we should, you know, create the app by going screen by screen. So it says refining, but I would say that it's much better going page by page anyways, because first of all, LLMs hallucinate if you just give it a lot of, you know, things to do. It's better doing it like that. And also within a certain screen, you can give it a lot of more context, right? Without having it go wrong. So we already gave it the high level setup. So now we're going to say, okay, give me the scrape page. So we're going to scrape all the Instagram reels. So let's come over here and let's say, no, let's first create the scraper screen. Here are the details for that screen. So we can actually also create variants. I think that's pretty useful because, as you know, AI generations don't come fully as you want. So it's always good to choose between a list of them. So yeah, we don't need to add any more details and we're just gonna press enter. So now it's just gonna do its thing. And once it's done, I'll resume the video.
Hi there. Just briefly want to stop the video to announce that I have finally launched my community, Neuro Architects, where I plan to bring together the smartest people in this space and business owners that want to build the systems of the future together using artificial intelligence. So inside this community, you'll find everything ranging from all the templates that I will make from the YouTube videos, as well as exclusive community calls, and also so much other stuff. So join right now, stay tuned, and I'll see you inside.
Okay, so here are the 3 different results. And yeah, we see here that this makes more sense. We have the different reels. We can search for the reels. I mean, it's working with Apify, so we can run the Apify scraper. This would be hidden ideally. But yeah, we have the second one over here. Yeah, not a big fan of this one. So we're just gonna reject this. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to do it like this in phone format. I mean, when we have a web app. And then we have this one, which doesn't make a lot of sense over here when it's doing this. But yeah, I like the metrics. This is what I'm currently using in the system as well. And we can upload more images. We can actually edit this. So we can do annotations to this. So let's say I want to say remove this element completely, and then we say apply. Okay, so apparently this finished, and I'm sure it created a new screen. So let's bring it up here. And yeah, we can see that it removed it successfully. So now this could be perhaps our new scraper screen, although I'm not going to use it anyways. I'm going to delete it because I'm going to choose the first one. But so it gives you an idea on the quick editing that you can do with this. We can even adjust the theme as well, which is very interesting. So let's say I apply this theme over here, and then we add some corner radiuses, and then we can change the font. Okay, I'm very interested in this. It's an interesting approach that they're going for here. They're automating parts of the design, right? Like common parts of the design. So, you might want to switch between light and dark, main colors, the fonts, and the corner radiuses. These are main things that you change, or things that you initially think about when it comes to the design of an app. So if I apply the theme over here, it's gonna go ahead and make any changes, and let's see what it comes up with. And I'm pretty sure that it uses Nano Banana in the background. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. And there you go. So you can see how it changed the font, which I see that I don't like too much, changed to dark theme, and yeah, change the accent colors. So this is cool. This is, as you see, very quick, much quicker than if you were to design this in Figma. So you understand where I'm going for with this. It's like a hybrid between Figma and Lovable, let's say, somewhere in between, right? You can design it like if you were in Figma, so you can drag stuff across, right, get inspiration and stuff like that, but it doesn't give you too much complexity, right? It's just so it's perfect for non-technical people. But anyway, since I don't like the design anyways, I'm just gonna go ahead and ditch it. You can create multiple options as well. So let's say I want a couple of variants with it. Creative range, let's go YOLO with it. Custom instructions, let's say change the way the reels are displayed. Aspects to vary, this is very interesting. So the images, the layout, and that's all. So let's create 3 variants of it. I just wanna show you what we're able to do with this. So let's create these variants. Okay, so I guess it centered everything. The views per hour, yeah, didn't do much. So I guess it's just a light way to regenerate something. You can download, export to Jules, which I think is collaborative designing from Google, is another product. And then we can also view the code. Okay, this is great because we're gonna do something with this afterwards. It's part of the workflow. So stay tuned. We can also export to Figma. Very interesting. We can export to Figma, but I have a quicker way to get to creating an app. So I'm gonna delete this, I'm gonna delete this. You see how it's a very light process, and I'm not risking much because I'm not building anything in Lovable, right? When you start the designs in Lovable, you kind of have to go through them because once you have the UI, part of the logic behind it is already connected to that UI, right? If you don't prompt it correctly. This allows you to mess around, get creative, get inspirational without even worrying that, there's backend logic being built. So this is what I like about this kind of isolated approach. So yeah, I don't like this one either. So let's bring this up. I like this one. I don't like this one. Absolutely don't like this one because they're not even centered. So I'm gonna stick with these 2 designs over here. Connects around URL, and I think you can also expand. So it would do like an AI expand kind of thing. Okay, nice. Okay, so it's actually responsive. Great, I like this. Actions. So we can, move it onto the next step, which would be creating a transcript out of this. I like this because you can view, it's kind of an Instagram type thing. Connect Instagram, I wouldn't put that there. So I will put it on the settings. So what I'm gonna do is go like this, and let's say, well, actually we're gonna leave it, but let's change this to light to light. Apply theme, and yeah, let's wait. So I'm taking you through actually the entire process here for this first page. All right, cool. Let's actually change. I actually like the blue one better. Let's add some corner radiuses, and let's add a better font. So let's apply that again. Sorry, I'll be back in a second. Cool. So you see how this all size changed. Let's expand it a bit once. So once again, you can see the whole thing. Great. So I'm actually gonna stick with this one. I kind of like this, but yeah, I can see how complex it can get if you render a large video. I would have it click over here, then it shows me the entire video. So it's easier to see the metrics like this. It's more analytic rather than this. So I'm not gonna just throw it in the trash. I'm just gonna leave it there for comparison. Okay, so we got this first one, and what I'm gonna do now to speed up the process for you is I'm just gonna go through all the rest of the pages. I'm gonna build them, you know, page by page or screen by screen, and I'll see you at the end of it. All right, so here is the result. I'm not gonna lie to you, it did take some time. So if you see on the top part over here and the bottom part over here, I did go through some iterations, okay? So what I actually did for the rest of the pages is that I clicked this 3x over here, just gives you 3 different variants, and I've just been testing a lot. And yeah, I'm gonna let you know, a lot of the time was spent in just refining little parts of each of the pages, okay? So one problem that I found was that Google doesn't really do the navigation elements properly, okay? So it's gonna change some of the icons, some of the layouts, even the order of it. So just something that I picked up along the process, and yeah, just little irregularities that happen when you are messing around with an LLM in design. But I'd rather you take the time now in the design process than changing things later on when you have actually some logic embedded with the design, okay, with the UI. Because when you want to make changes later on, it just becomes harder, and there's a higher chance that you get dirtier spaghetti code that then it's hard to recover from, okay? Once again, it's the best thing that you can do is exactly understand what you want to see in your UI, exactly what you want to see in your app, every single element, every single thing, okay? And then you can pass that, add it as context onto an AI app builder. But yeah, so what we currently have is the following. So we have a library of, you know, when you log in, you have a library of all the projects that you've tried out. So once again, this is focused on AI news channels. Then you can import the reels. So this is a bit of, you know, scraping Apify. Well, I was using Apify in the background to scrape accounts, and from those accounts scrape posts and reels that you would be interested in. So you can see the metrics over here, and the actions should, if you want to, let's say, get inspired by one of them or base your AI news reel from one of them, then you go ahead, click here, and it should take you onto the next screen. This should be filled up automatically, okay? And yeah, so you can, you know, edit it as much as you want. Then the next process will be creating the audio. I'll be using 11 Labs, and then generate the audio. And once that's done, once you have the audio, then you can go ahead and create the avatar, okay? And once that's done, once you have the avatar, then you can put everything in one single place, right, for editing. So now you can create a full video out of it. So some of the elements that go with it are the B-roll, the avatar in itself, of course, the audio, and the captions. Those are the core elements that make, you know, most videos. Of course, you do have transitions, editing, and so on, but you know, we're leaving them out of scope. And yeah, and once you have that, then you know, you can go to the settings page and add all your API tokens. So these are the tokens that I'm currently using on the N8N system. Once again, I'll leave that in the description, so you can, you know, video to that in the description. But yeah, that's essentially pretty much it. And once you have the designs that you want and the pages that you want, then you can just go ahead and download them. Okay, so I'm gonna show you the second step. So make sure to download these first. So go ahead and download these. And once you're done, we're gonna move on to Google AI Studio. Right, so here we are in Google AI Studio, and remember, it's a separate site to Stitch, okay? So what we can do now is go ahead and, yeah, just come back over here. And now what we can do is add some files. And this is where, you know, creating the previous design files comes in very handy. So you could have done this on Figma, right? You could have used another designer to do it. But the key with Stitch is that it just takes much less to do it, right? It takes less time to do it, especially for non-technical people. So I'm gonna go ahead and upload the files. And if you have actually downloaded all the project in Stitch, right? So if you go over here and you hit over here and hit download all, then you should have something like this, right? It will be a zip file, and inside that zip file, you would have these folders, each representing the code and a screenshot as well, which is very, very nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and just drop that in Google AI Studio. So let's see if I can drop, okay, file types are not supported. So yeah, what we're gonna do actually is we are going to give it only one of the screens first. We're gonna give it context on, you know, the whole app, what we're trying to build, but we're gonna start by building it page by page. And this aligns with Google's best practices. So I actually did some research and checked on this and yeah, so essentially let's copy this. Okay, this is going to be the initial project prompt. We're going to paste that here, and as you said, make sure to revise this prompt. Let's make sure it's to your liking, do some research, and we're telling it, okay, build the first page, the landing page, and then we'll continue. But I'm giving you context on what we're going to build next. Okay, so once that's there, then I'm going to just pass it the library page. Okay, which is, you know, where we have all of our completed projects or projects that we're working on, right, within the AI news channels. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And you can choose between the model as well. You have 2.5 Pro Flash, but for now they're for free. I added custom instructions as well. So if you want that, just let me know. It's specifically for this project, but I'm sure that you can make generic rules for the other projects. And you can choose between Angular or React. React, probably the model has more training data from React. It's just a larger library. It's being used by most people. And this is if you want to talk to it, but not necessary. So we have this, and yeah, let's just build it, see what it comes up with. All right, so this is what we have for the first page. And if I'm being honest, it's completely the same as the design that we made on Stitch. So if we're going here, right, exactly the same. And the reason it's able to do this is not mainly because of the screenshot, which is, you know, helps a lot, but it's that combination of having the screenshot and also the underlying code. Okay, so this is great. It has some hover features as well. But if I press onto another page or screen, well, it refuses to connect because there's nothing there. And if you look at the code, well, it made some components, and we have some, you know, some generic things as well. Something to add here is that it didn't create an environment file, which is, you know, what you need to add all the API keys and stuff like that. But that's fine. Because what we're going to do is, let's refresh this. What we're going to do is create a new folder, and this is where we're going to add all of the other screens, right? All of the context for the other screens. So the HTML files and the screenshots that accompany that code. So I'm just going to grab an entire folder, and let's see if I can add it here. Let me add that here. There you go. Beautiful. So now if I close this and I open this, right, it's all named. So maybe I can stretch this out. We got the editor screen, the library screen, right? And what this allows us to do is it allows us to give the coding agent permanent context on the designs without having to mention it in the chat, right? Having to paste the code and the screenshots all the time. Now it has all of this here. So this is great because now I could say, okay, let's go ahead and create the library screen. Go ahead and find the relevant docs and the design guidance in the library.screen. I don't have to go through a long description of, you know, this is exactly how you should do it, whatever. No, because we have already designed it. So that's the huge advantage of, you know, isolating the design first, getting the files, and then putting it here. All right, so now we are going to go and do the second page, which is the scraper screen, right? We did library screen, now we're gonna do the scraper screen. So we're gonna say something like, let's first go here, and let's say, okay, create me a prompt for Google AI Studio so we already made the first page, which is the library page or library screen. And now we're gonna do the second screen or page, which is the scraper screen, okay? Yeah, it has access to an HTML file and a PNG file inside. Well, it's code base. Okay, so make sure that you add that. Make sure you add that it has access to the scraper screen. Ask it to use it as main reference for creating, you know, the second screen or the second page, which is going to be responsible for what we discussed already. Because yeah, and the reason I'm saying all of this based on what we discussed and whatever is because I already had a discussion with ChatGPT before about the project, right? Which I recommend you to do before touching Google Stitch, before touching anything. Use the LLM of your choice in order to plan what you actually want to build, okay? Because then if you want to put a nice prompt, then you can create it here and then paste the prompt here as you keep going, right? Because yeah, the realistic thing is that you're not going to put in a very good prompt, so might as well have an LLM refine your idea in detail. That's what we did here. Let's paste it, and yeah, it's going to come up with hopefully a nice prompt. All right, so we're copying that and then we're pasting it onto here. And yeah, I mean, ideally we limit the files, the code to 500 lines of code, something like that. But I'm sure that it's already doing that pretty well. But yeah, so I told it that it has access to somewhere here. Let's see. Yeah, I told it that it needs to access the HeyGen API, stuff like that. The scraper screen directory with code.html and screen.png. Okay, so let's press enter and let's see what it creates for us. Okay, so this is what we currently have. You can see that it looks nice, but obviously none of the functionalities have been added. But yeah, now we can switch between the library and the scraper page, which is great. And we can see that it has created a table, right, which contains all of the mock data. Ideally, we want to push this onto a Supabase table or something like that. But as you know, this is a prototype. So yeah, this is out of the scope for this video. All right, so the process from now on is pretty similar. So you just need to prepare detailed prompt for the rest of the pages, refer the HTML, the screenshots. You can even refer to the screenshots directly in the chat. And yeah, I changed this because I want to send this to the studio, right? I want to move the transcription onto the studio, create an audio and so on. So yeah, we have here Apify Scraper. Probably don't need to connect Instagram, but let's see what we can add an API key. Well, that's very unfortunate. As expected, Google wants us to stay in the ecosystem, use their own API keys. Well, I don't blame them. They need to get their bread. And this is a big bread actually. But yeah, I'm gonna try to circumvent this. Let's see how I can do it. It's a prototype. I'll create the next pages. I'll come back in a second. All right, so here are the rest of the pages. So we have the studio over here where, we grab a transcription, voice model and so on. And then once you generate the audio, we can go ahead and generate the avatar. We got the editor where we can generate the videos. We have some hover. This works as well. This works as well. The drop downs work, the sliders work. The toggling on and off doesn't work. Okay, so as I said, this is a kind of a skeleton, so I need to work on it. And then we got the settings tab where all of the API keys would go. And this is obviously not true because I don't have any of the API keys here, but I've managed to get the audio generation running, okay? So something that I realized is, as I explained before, Google doesn't want you to use external API keys, so they don't give you access to a .env file. You can't create a .env file. So if you go to the code over here, a .env file or an environment file is required for you to connect to external services with an API key. The thing is that you don't want to store an API key on a random file, okay? Otherwise, people might be able to access that and grab your API key, and you don't want to end up broke. So that's the reason for the .env file. But if you try to create this .env file, it's not gonna allow you. So I don't know if I can zoom in. So if I put .env, even .env.example, yeah, it doesn't, so not even that one. And if you do again .env, so it's prohibited. So if you want to add a .env and add the rest of the logic, I recommend you to move to something like Cursor to continue the development, okay? So yeah, what I have done to circumvent this is to add my API key inside one of the files, which is a big no-no, don't do that. But yeah, I'm gonna show you the process where I got to so far. So let's say you imagine that you actually scrape a reel from Instagram and then you like this transcription, then you can go ahead and create the project and then it's gonna push the transcription onto the editor, okay? So we can perhaps do with this, right? You see that it works, it pulls out the actual script. So let's put this one because it's fuller. And now we can choose between any of the voices. And I know it's custom because these are some custom voices that I pulled from my 11 Labs account. So I go here, I can change the speed and the pitch, but let's leave it how it is. And I can go ahead and generate the audio. So if I go ahead and generate the audio, then I should get an audio file below. Okay, let's have a listen.
This is the secret to making your videos go viral. You won't believe how easy it is to implement. I'm gonna walk you through the entire process step by step. So watch until the end.
Yeah, so this is a standard Chrome player component, okay? I think it's from Chrome, but yeah, I mean, it works. This is great. And then the next step would obviously be to connect the HeyGen API key and make this work, right? So it involves a couple steps. The way I was able to do this was, by doing it step by step. So I told the code assistant, hey, okay, I want to make these features to actually work. Okay, what are the steps? So I know that I need to access 11 Labs. I want to send the transcript onto the API and I want to receive it as an audio file and I want to be able to play that audio file as well. Okay, so there's several steps and you should know how all of these things work, okay? That's why building no-code automations is very valuable, because you get to understand APIs, how data send between back and forth, because the software is just a glorified automation in the background with just a nice front end, if you think about it. So that's why I praise prototyping using no-code tools. So, but yeah, this is the same concept. And then once you have the avatar, then we could push the avatar video here, and then you can go ahead and edit this, given that you make this functional. So once you have this working and running and all of this, or you have it at a stage where you can't work in it anymore because you don't want to use APIs from Google, you want to move somewhere else, Cursor, for example, which I might do actually, then you can either save a copy to Google Drive, you can download the app, or you can save it to GitHub as well. Okay, or you can deploy the app as well. So you got several options. I think you can share it as well. You can share the app, so that's pretty cool. So let's go through the process of actually saving it to GitHub. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a new copy in order for your GitHub to use. Yes, okay, AI avatar. Okay, it doesn't allow you to, sure. Description, AI avatar app. We're gonna hit save. I'm going to sign up to GitHub. And you just need to go through, this process. I'm not gonna go through this process because I wanna show you that you can also share it. Okay, you can share the app. You can do advanced permissions as well. Oh, interesting, okay. So you can do restricted access, or you can even publish your app as well. And I feel like if you copy this and you paste this across, then you should be able to access the app if it's deployed. So hopefully I did end up deploying it correctly. And I mean, deploying it just means publishing the app. Yeah, completely works. So you can share it with other people, similar to how you do on Lovable. Or if you want to go, I guess, the quick route, just download it, to be honest. Just download it and then upload it on your, open it on your code editor of choice, if that's Cursor or not. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to cover in this video. Hopefully you found that workflow useful. Yeah, if you want to see my progress on the Avatar app, or even if you want access to this code, I can give you access to this code. That's no problem for me. Hopefully you're able to build software startup out of this, or a cool idea out of this, all the Avatar stuff. Once again, if you want access to the system that is currently working with SOPs and all that, I'll leave you a link to the previous video as well, okay, where I go through the process with the system that's already working on Airtable and N8N, okay? If you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions for future videos, please let me know down in the comments. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. And if you're not, well, let me know as well in the comments. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.